face any consequences if Vladimir Putin does not agree to stop the war after your meeting on Friday?
Yes, they will. Yeah.
What will the consequences
there will be
be?
consequences.
Sanctions, tariffs?
There will be, I don't have to say, there will be very severe consequences.
That was President Trump there vowing severe consequences on Russia if his meeting with Putin tomorrow is not productive.
It will mark the first meeting between a U.S. and Russian leader since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Trump has made it clear his ultimate goal is to end the war, even if that means what he called a land swap, an idea that Ukraine has dismissed.
But some who have been following the conflict closely say a deal at the summit, even if it includes ceding Ukrainian territory to Russia, may be the only chance at peace. Take a listen to comedian Dave Smith's heated exchange with activist William Browder on Piers Morgan's show.
Let's try to negotiate an end to this nightmare that never needed to happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what Neville Chamberlain did.
Shut up. Anybody ever arguing against war is always Neville Chamberlain. That is the one and only lesson of history, that appeasement never works and aggression is always right. We appease dictators all over the world. We overthrow democratically elected governments and prop up dictators. What are you even talking about?
The exchange didn't end there. Here's a little more.
You obviously are not educated on the issues. The reason why Vladimir Putin is at war is for his own personal survival. He's not going to back off from this war. To then appease him at this moment, to give him Ukraine is just a complete...
You're not giving him anything. It's not yours to give. He took it and you can't get it back. Deal with that reality.
Yeah, took the words out of my own heart, Dave. Dave's a friend of mine. I agree with him on most foreign policy topics, and I certainly agree here. It's not appeasement, it's just the cold hard facts, which is that we can't stop him from he's going to take all of Ukraine unless we reach some kind of deal. So you can call that appeasement. I just call it not losing all of Ukraine to Russia.
Well, I think the one thing that I agreed about that he said is that we would like to end the war. So the fact that there's a conversation happening is great. But also the fact that Zelensky's not even going to be in the room is a disaster. And the fact that there's not a unified strategy amongst all of our European allies that are in NATO, talking about what they would like to see happen from this meeting with President Trump, as opposed to this picturesque moment that we're going to get with Vladimir Putin sitting next to Trump in a place that Vladimir Putin suggested and picked, even though he's been playing a game with Trump for the last 7 months of his presidency, where he's gotten on the phone with him or met in person now. This will be the 5th time. I don't think that visually looks good to the people that we care most about, which would be our allies. And so we need to be having conversations about what exactly they would like.
If our allies have great ideas, they can bring them up. There's nothing stopping them.
No,
they don't have good ideas.
They can be in the meeting, though. That's what I mean. Like, there should be more conversation happening about how to handle this. So one conversation that should be happening more is that, yeah, maybe Biden put light sanctions on Russia that weren't, that effective. But if we continue down that road and continue to make it uncomfortable for Russia, they're not going to go against the entire Europe and America and say, okay, we're just going to keep going and blaze through Ukraine. Perhaps a little bit of more of an amenable solution for Zelensky will come about. But now it's just like, whatever you want. And then at the same time, my biggest issue has been that Trump consistently berates Zelensky. And it's like, he is not the aggressor here. He is the person just defending his country.
He berated him one time.
No, every time. As recent as last week, he berated him for having a perspective on whether or not he wants to cede any land to Russia. Trump said, well, I don't know why. Like, he says this publicly all the time. Just call up Zelensky and say what you want to say, but constantly trying to make a fool out of that man who's trying to defend his country.
I don't think he's constantly trying to make a fool out of him.
He's villainizing them all the time, to me. And that's my perspective in the way that he's talking about that. I'm not the only one that feels this way. There's several people that say the tone is completely off. You would think that in some cases that Ukraine is the actual aggressor here, which is confusing to people.
He's frustrated with both Zelensky, and he's been periodically frustrated with Zelensky and Putin. He's frustrated this war is continuing. He's upset about the position Biden put him in. Our European allies, we can take them or leave them. They're addicted to Russian energy, so they're only going to be so useful here. If they really were serious about this, they could wean themselves off from that little addiction, and that might do something to Russia, but they're not going to do it. So put up or shut up. Fine.
But there are other ideas. So I was reading yesterday that the Council of Foreign Relations, they have a suggestion here. They said that we should seize and freeze Russian assets so that they won't have up to $260 billion from Europe. And that will really make them move and support Ukraine's reconstruction with some of that assets that they're freezing from Europe. So we can't be the only people putting money, into Ukraine. Obviously, I support Europe doing their part, and I've said that multiple times. But I don't think that just stopping right here where Russia is prepared to have a conversation and not with Zelensky is the solution. I think that we should be coming to the table with what the larger party involved in NATO wants.
Facilitate a Zelensky conversation coming up next. He's first going to do the meeting with
But
Putin,
he's already said, yes, we're going to do a land swap. You're making agreements, just like, we were listening to the podcast and he's like, it's not your land to discuss. It's not Trump's either. Trump went on national TV and said, yeah, we're going to, do a land swap. How? How can you say this is up to Zelensky?
Well, that's obviously what the deal is going to involve. If you're right, if Ukraine doesn't want to swap any land, then they can just watch as the entire country is conquered by Russia, and they'll swap 100% of the land. Like, what do people want? Do you want to lose 100% of Ukraine, or do we want to lose part of Ukraine?
I don't think
it seems
the European
obvious to
allies
me.
are comfortable with
We're all
that solution.
failing the trolley problem here. Like, obviously, you run over 6 people instead of 20 people. Like, that's just what's got to be. To happen. It's not ideal. I wish we could prevent it, but we can't unless we send in ground troops, and we're not going to do that. No one wants to do that. I don't want to do that. Not even the most staunch pro-Ukrainian, defend it to the last man actually thinks that the U.S. should commit troops, in which case we are just negotiating.
And what do you say to people that are uncomfortable with the idea that as Russia continues to take over Ukrainian territory and creep closer to some of our NATO allies, that they're highly uncomfortable with that? Because obviously, like you said, I don't know that Russia wants a war, but Russia probably does want more land, more access to situations that make them more powerful. And so we would not want that to happen.
The surest way to give them more land is to let the war continue. The war continuing will result in them getting even more land because they're going to win the war. Because Ukraine does not have the resources to prevent Russia's eventual conquest of the country. So because I do not want all of Ukraine to fall into Russian hands, and because I do not want Russia at the doorstep of our NATO allies, I am forced to contend with, I don't have any dog in the fight, I am forced to accept the reality that as a result of this war, some Ukrainian territory will shift into Russia's possession, and hopefully that will be that.
And another major reality that you must be forced to contend with is the fact that Putin has played President Trump multiple times this year alone by saying one thing and then doing egregious acts the next day. And Trump has been like, I'm so surprised, I'm so surprised. So going to this entire meeting later or tomorrow and trying to say you're going to come up with some solution and telling reporters, oh, there will be consequences. I mean, you said that 5 times now. There won't be consequences. I think that's the biggest failure for us is that, yes, we're willing to bend to Russia's will. However, there's a way and a position you can put this to make it seem like Russia cannot just do whatever they want.
The worst case scenario of this negotiation is that it doesn't work, and then Russia just continues the conquest of Ukraine. So the worst case scenario of my plan is what your plan calls for, which is just a war between the two countries.
The best case scenario would be to have a conversation with the people that have the most stake in this game. That's our NATO allies who don't want Russia impeding on their territory, and to make sure that we are propelling Zelensky to protect himself and his country and find ways to communicate with him about what he would like. Because obviously he's not getting everything he wants. He's not getting them to completely get out of there and get back everything. Exactly.
I'm glad you recognize that Russia's saying, we're so sorry, here's the whole country
back. I don't think
back.
that's realistic, but he can say, okay, here's what we're going to do, and here's a solution that makes sense to me. And President Trump, before he lets, I'm sure they're having conversations, but before he lets the general public know about what the strategy is going to be, like, oh yeah, we're giving up land, perhaps he should make sure that he's in sync with the people that are our allies, NATO, and all the countries involved in that, and the number one person involved, which is Zelensky, because he's very communicative about what he's saying with Putin and how those conversations are going.
Trump is the peace president,
the
hero of the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict, a proposed Nobel Peace Prize winner.
No.
I'm proposing it. Azerbaijan and Armenia, our dear, beautiful friends, have proposed it. So if he settles this one, the Nobel Prize is not significant enough for him.
And if
we need to create an even
greater
prize that we can award to Trump.
Okay, but if he doesn't settle it and Zelensky's never satisfied, like the way he's asking Putin, what would you like? He can simply ask Zelensky what would he like, and if he doesn't settle it, then here we are in war throughout his presidency. Like, it can continue to go on for years as it has.
Right. The worst thing that could happen is that it was the same situation as it was under Biden and is under now.
And he's not the great negotiator in chief that he said he was. He said he would get this handled ASAP, and it's certainly not ASAP.
He's a powerful diplomat and an amazing voice for peace, but he is just a man, I think. He can only do so much.
Just a man excuse. Okay. I think that's convenient. Mehdi Hasan is throwing out one well-known name to run in 2028. Find out who that is next. We'll be right back after this.